Saturday afternoons were always the same. Mow the lawn, grab a cold drink, and maybe sit on the porch for a bit. I had just finished up, wiping sweat off my forehead, when I heard knocking at the door. Not a frantic knock, not impatient, just steady, like whoever was standing there was not leaving until I answered. I figured it was a delivery guy dropping off a package, or maybe one of the neighbor's kids selling something for school. But when I opened the door, I was surprised to see Tom standing there. Tom lived next door. He was in his early 60s, retired police officer, and the kind of guy who never spoke unless there was a reason. We had lived side by side for years, exchanged nods, talked about the weather now and then, but he had never once knocked on my door. And right then, the look on his face made my stomach twist. "You got a minute?" he asked, hands buried deep in the pockets of his cargo shorts. I wiped my hands on the rag I was holding, nodding. "Yeah, what's up?" Tom took a breath, like he was debating whether to say what was on his mind. "I wasn't sure if I should tell you," he started, but I kept thinking if it was me, I'd want to know. I felt my gut tighten. "Know what?" He looked me in the eye. "I saw Megan with the plumber on Tuesday. And not just chatting. I saw them in his van for about 20 minutes. When they got out, she kissed him." He paused, letting that sink in. Then he added, "And it didn't look like the first time." The air around me went still. The hum of a distant lawnmower, the sound of birds in the trees, all of it faded. I let out a small, hollow laugh. "Come on, Tom. I wouldn't be here if I wasn't sure," he said. His face was unreadable, but his voice was steady. "I know this is a hell of a thing to drop on a guy, but I figured it was better you heard it from me than someone else." I did not say anything. I just stood there, staring at him, my mind racing to grab onto any explanation. Megan? My wife. The woman who had always been the first to roll her eyes when we saw stories about cheating on TV. The same woman who used to say she could never understand how someone could betray the person they built a life with. Tom was still watching me, waiting for a reaction. Maybe he expected me to explode, punch something, or break down right there on the porch. But I did not do any of those things. I swallowed the lump in my throat, nodded, and said, "Thanks for telling me." Then I turned and walked inside. Megan was in the kitchen, sitting at the table, scrolling through her phone. She looked up when she saw me. Her hair was damp. She must have just come out of the shower. She smiled, casual as ever. "What did Tom want?" she asked, taking a sip from her coffee mug. I stared at her. I watched the way she wrapped her fingers around the cup, the way she blinked at me like I was just any other guy standing in his kitchen. Not her husband. The same husband who had just been told she was sneaking around behind his back. I did not answer right away. Instead, I walked to the fridge, grabbed a bottle of water, twisted off the cap, and took a slow sip, trying to settle the heat rising in my chest. Megan raised an eyebrow. "Are you going to tell me? Or?" I leaned against the counter, gripping the bottle tight. "Tom says he saw you with the plumber on Tuesday." For the briefest second, so fast I almost missed it, I saw it. That flicker of something in her eyes. A hesitation, like her brain was scrambling for the right reaction. Then it was gone, replaced by an exasperated scoff. "Oh my God," she groaned, rolling her eyes. "He is so nosy." "Seriously?" She laughed. Laughed, like it was some kind of joke. "He said he saw you get into the plumber's van." I continued, my voice too calm. "Said you were in there for 20 minutes. And when you got out, you kissed him." Megan set her coffee down a little too hard. "Unbelievable," she muttered. "First of all, I was not in his van for 20 minutes. That is ridiculous." She folded her arms across her chest. "And second, I did not kiss him. Maybe Tom's eyesight is not as great as he thinks." I kept watching her, silent. She let out another scoff. "Look, he came by because the sink upstairs was leaking. I was outside, checking my phone while he wrapped things up. We talked for a minute, and I thanked him for his help. Maybe it looked like something else from a distance, but I didn't kiss him." She was looking at me like I was the one being unreasonable. "So, you're saying Tom just made it up?" I asked. "I'm saying maybe he saw what he wanted to see," she snapped. "Or maybe he just likes drama." I did not believe her. Not for a second. But I also was not about to start throwing accusations without proof. Yet. So I just nodded, pretending to let it go. "Yeah, maybe." Megan exhaled, looking relieved. "Good. Because honestly, I do not have time for nonsense like this." She stood up, stretched, and kissed me on the cheek. "I'm going to the store. You need anything?" I shook my head. She grabbed her purse, walked to the door, and left. Like nothing had happened. I stood there for a long time, gripping the water bottle until my knuckles turned white. Megan had just lied straight to my face. I knew it, and I was not about to let it slide. I was going to find out the truth. And when I did, she was going to regret ever thinking I would not. Megan left for the store as if nothing had happened. As if she had not just been accused of cheating. As if she had not just lied right to my face. That told me everything I needed to know. A woman who was innocent would have been furious. She would have grabbed my hand, dragged me next door, and demanded Tom tell me to my face that he had seen something shady. She would have called the plumber right then and there, made him confirm that nothing had happened. But Megan? She laughed. She brushed it off, and she walked out the door. I stayed in the kitchen for a long time before I finally tossed the water bottle into the sink and walked upstairs. Our bedroom looked the same. Bed neatly made, her makeup scattered on the vanity, a half-finished book on the nightstand. But it felt different. It did not feel like my bedroom anymore. It felt like a place where I did not belong. I stared at the bed we had shared for years. Had she done it here? With him? The thought made my stomach twist. I had to take a deep breath just to keep the anger from boiling over. This was not over. Not even close. Instead of standing around driving myself crazy, I went straight for her nightstand. I did not even know exactly what I was looking for, but I knew I would find something. People like Megan, people who get comfortable lying, they always slip up. Her phone charger was still plugged in, but her phone was missing. Probably in her purse. I opened the drawer and sifted through the usual clutter. Receipts, random business cards, a few crumpled up notes. That was when I saw it. A receipt. Not just any receipt. A cafe receipt from across town. Tuesday, 3:47 p.m. A plumber does not fix a sink in a coffee shop. My pulse kicked up a notch as I grabbed the receipt and stuffed it into my pocket. Then I moved to the dresser. Megan was not the kind of person to keep a diary, but she did keep a stack of old papers in her top drawer. Mail she forgot to sort. Coupons she swore she would use but never did. My fingers skimmed through the mess until I landed on something that did not belong. A folded note. I opened it. The handwriting was not hers. See you Tuesday. Can't wait. No name. No signature. Just that. A slow, cold wave of realization hit me square in the chest. Everything in me wanted to call her, to demand an explanation right then and there. But I knew better. If she was lying, she would just keep lying. I needed proof. Something she could not deny. I carefully placed everything back the way I found it, making sure nothing looked disturbed. Then I grabbed my keys and stepped outside. Tom was still out front, watering his lawn like he had not just detonated a bomb in my life an hour ago. I walked over. Got a second? He shut off the hose and nodded. Yeah, what's up? I pulled the cafe receipt out of my pocket and held it up. You said you saw them on Tuesday. What time? Tom frowned, thinking. Around 3:30, maybe a little later. What? I handed him the receipt. He took it, his frown deepening. Cafe across town, I said. So if she was with the plumber at our house, why is there a receipt from a coffee shop at nearly the same time? Tom let out a low whistle. Damn, you think she met him there first? I think she met someone there first. Tom shook his head. Look, I do not know what is going on, but if you need anything, you let me know. I nodded. Appreciate it. I went back inside, sat down on the couch, and stared at the receipt like it held all the answers. This was not just a misunderstanding. Megan was lying, and I was about to prove it. I checked the time. Megan had been gone for almost 40 minutes. Probably still at the store, or maybe she was meeting up with someone again. The thought made my hands clench, but I forced myself to breathe. I was not going to act on emotion. I was going to get proof. I pulled out my phone and searched for the cafe's number. A second later, I was dialing. A woman picked up. Hey, I was wondering if you could help me out, I said, keeping my tone light. My wife was there on Tuesday afternoon, around 3:45. She thinks she might have lost something, and I'm trying to retrace her steps. Any chance you remember her? Redhead, mid-30s, wearing... I hesitated. I had no idea what she was wearing that day. The woman sighed. We get a lot of customers, sir. You might want to check with her directly. I forced a chuckle. Yeah. No worries. Do you happen to have security cameras? A pause. Then, we do, but we can't share footage with non-law enforcement. Of course, I understand. Thanks anyway. I hung up, gripping the phone tight. So that was a dead end for now. But I still had options. Megan had taken my truck to the store, which meant her car was still in the driveway. That gave me access. I stepped outside, unlocked her car, and slid into the driver's seat. First, I checked the glove compartment. Just a bunch of napkins, an expired insurance card, an old pack of gum. Nothing useful. Then I checked the center console. That was where I found it. A second phone. My pulse pounded in my ears as I picked it up and pressed the power button. The screen lit up. Enter passcode. Megan had never mentioned having another phone. I barely had time to process it before I heard the sound of tires rolling up the driveway. Megan was back. I shoved the phone into my pocket, shut the console, and got out of the car just as she stepped out of my truck, carrying a couple of grocery bags. "Hey," she said, smiling like nothing was wrong. "Can you grab a rest?" I nodded, keeping my face neutral. "Yeah." I walked over, grabbed the remaining bags, and followed her inside. She started unpacking, humming to herself, completely unaware that I was standing there watching her. Megan was good. Too good. But I was getting better. I slipped the second phone deeper into my hoodie pocket and watched as she put the milk in the fridge. "So," I said casually, "what took you so long?" "Store busy." She glanced at me over her shoulder. "Yeah, weekend rush. You know how it is." I nodded like I believed her. I wanted to confront her right then and there, slam the phone onto the counter, and demand an explanation. But I held back. Megan was a liar. And liars? They panic when you hit them at the right moment. I needed to wait until she least expected it. And when I did, she was going to have nowhere to run. Later that night, Megan was sound asleep beside me, her body curled slightly away, her breathing slow and steady. Looking at her, you would think she was just another wife sleeping peacefully beside her husband. But I knew better now. The second phone sat heavy in my pocket, pressing against my ribs like a weight I could not shake. I had found it tucked away in her car, hidden like some dirty little secret she never meant for me to find. I glanced at the clock. 2:13 a.m. If I was going to do this, now was the time. Carefully, I slid out of bed, moving slow so the mattress did not shift too much. Megan sighed softly in her sleep, but did not stir. I grabbed my hoodie off the chair and slipped out of the bedroom, padding barefoot down the hall to the bathroom. Once inside, I shut the door and locked it. Then I turned on the exhaust fan, not too loud, but just enough to cover any noise I made. I pulled out the phone and pressed the power button. The screen lit up. Enter passcode. I stared at the passcode screen, my pulse pounding. Megan and I had been together long enough for me to know most of her passwords, at least the ones she used regularly. Our anniversary? Her birthday? Maybe the last 4 digits of her phone number? I tried each one. Nothing. Then I paused. Megan thought she was smarter than me. She thought she could hide this, thought I would never even think to check. But what if she got lazy? What if she used something tied to her own lies? I took a slow, deep breath and typed in the plumber's phone number. The screen unlocked. A cold, electric jolt shot through my veins. I was in. The home screen was empty, just a plain black background. No social media apps, no email, nothing that would normally be on a personal phone. Just calls and texts. This was not just a second phone. This was a burner phone. My grip tightened around it as I swiped open the messages. And that was when I found them. The first conversation was with an unknown number. "Tuesday. Usual time. Can't wait. Me too. I miss you. Did you talk to him? Not yet. I need more time. You keep saying that. I'm getting impatient. Please, just wait a little longer." I could feel my breath coming in short, angry bursts as I read the screen. This was not just about screwing around. Who the hell was she talking to? I scrolled through months of messages. Different meeting locations. Hotel rooms. Different days and times. It was all planned. She had been lying to me for months, maybe longer. But this was not just some dirty little affair. This was something bigger. Then I found the last message. A picture. It was not of Megan. It was of my house, taken from outside. At night, my stomach turned to stone. The message attached was just one word. Soon. The timestamp, 2 nights ago. My pulse roared in my ears. This was not just an affair. This was something worse. I backed out of the conversation and checked the call log. Dozens of missed calls from the same unknown number. Some recent, others dating back months. Whoever this was, they were not just some casual fling. They wanted something, and from the looks of it, they were done waiting. I clenched my jaw, my mind racing. I had to wake Megan up. I had to get answers right now. But then a different thought crept in. She had been lying to me for God knows how long. If I confronted her now, she would just lie again. I needed more. I needed to know exactly what I was dealing with before I showed my hand. I turned off the phone, put it on silent, and shoved it back into my hoodie pocket. Then I flushed the toilet just to make it seem like I had actually used the bathroom and slipped back into bed. Megan was still asleep, peaceful, unbothered, like she hadn't just been texting some faceless stranger about me. I lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, my mind running in 1,000 directions. She had been sneaking around behind my back, She had been meeting up with someone regularly, And now, whoever it was, they were watching my house. What the hell had I just stumbled into? I turned my head slightly, watching Megan's slow, steady breathing. Tomorrow, I was going to find out. And I had a feeling it was going to change everything. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, all I could see was that picture, the dark outline of my house, captured from somewhere outside, like a warning or a threat. Megan's breathing was steady beside me, completely undisturbed. She had no idea I had found her burner phone. No idea that I had seen the messages. No idea that I was done playing dumb. I lay there in the dark, running through every possibility. Who the hell was she texting? Was it the plumber? Or was this bigger than an affair? And what do they mean by soon? I had two choices. I could wake Megan up and demand answers right now. Or I could be smart. Megan was good at lying. Too good. If I hit her with this too soon, she would twist the truth until I started second-guessing myself. No. If I wanted the real truth, I had to catch her off guard. I needed to set a trap. By the time Megan stirred awake, I had already been up for an hour, sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee, pretending to scroll through my phone like it was just another morning. She padded into the kitchen, stretching. "Morning," she murmured, rubbing her eyes. I glanced up at her, keeping my expression neutral. "Morning." She walked over to the fridge, pulling out the orange juice. She looked normal. No guilt, no nerves, just the same woman I had been waking up next to for years. I sipped my coffee. "Got any plans today?" She paused for just a fraction of a second. Most people would not have caught it, but I was not most people. "I was thinking of running a few errands," she said casually. "Maybe hitting the gym." Lie. I knew it. I had read the messages. She had plans today, but they had nothing to do with errands or the gym. "Sounds good," I said, acting like I believed her. Megan sat across from me with her coffee, scrolling through her real phone like everything was fine. But I knew better. I had her burner phone. I had her messages, and I was going to use them against her. I waited until Megan left the house before I made my next move. She kissed me on the cheek, told me she would be back later, and then walked out the door with her gym bag. The second she was gone, I pulled out the burner phone and turned it on. New message. Unknown number. Same time today? I stared at it, my pulse kicking up. This was it. This was my chance. I took a deep breath, my fingers hovering over the screen. If I played this wrong, Megan would know I had the phone. But if I played it right, I typed, "Running late. Meet at the house instead." I hit send and waited. 1 minute passed, then another. The reply came. Unknown number. Can't. Too risky. A chill crawled down my spine. Too risky? I stared at the words, my grip tightening on the phone. Whoever this was, they were afraid of being seen at the house, which meant they were watching. Somewhere right now. Watching me. Watching Megan. Watching everything. I walked to the window, scanning the street. Nothing. But that did not mean they were not out there. I swallowed hard, my jaw clenching. This was bigger than an affair. Megan was hiding something else, and I was about to rip it open. I clenched my jaw. Whoever this was, they were not stupid. They were careful. I needed to get ahead of them. I grabbed my keys and left the house. I had a pretty good idea where Megan was going. The cafe receipt, the old messages, it all pointed to one place. I was going to catch her in the act. I parked 2 blocks away from the cafe and walked. I did not want to risk her seeing my truck. When I got there, I found a table outside, partially hidden by a planter. From here, I had a perfect view of the entrance. And then I waited. 10 minutes passed. 15. And then I saw her. Megan walked up to the cafe wearing leggings and a zip-up hoodie, her hair tied back. She did not look like a woman sneaking around. She looked like any other wife out running errands. But I knew better. She stepped inside, and a minute later, a man joined her. Not the plumber. Someone else. Tall, dark hair, athletic, wearing a baseball cap low over his eyes. I leaned forward, my jaw tightening. Who the hell was this? Megan sat down with him like it was the most natural thing in the world. She smiled, laughed, reached across the table, and touched his arm. My stomach twisted. This was not some one-time fling. This was not a mistake. This was intimate. This was real. And that was when it hit me. The plumber was a cover. Frank had seen Megan with the plumber, sure, but he had not seen what happened inside the house. He had not seen the Betrayal affair. Megan had been hiding something bigger, and now I was staring right at it. I clenched my fists, forcing myself to stay put. Every instinct in me wanted to walk over there, slam my hands on the table, and demand an explanation. But I didn't. Not yet. Instead, I grabbed my phone and took a picture. Megan laughing, dot. Megan leaning in close, dot. Megan touching another man the way she used to touch me. Then I stood up and walked away. I had everything I needed. Now it was time for Megan to face the truth. Megan stood in the middle of the kitchen, arms crossed, her lips barely twitching into what looked like the start of a smirk. I caught her red-handed. I had proof, texts, photos, a damn burner phone. And yet, she was not crying. She was not panicking. She was not making up lies to cover herself. She was calm, and that made me uneasy. You do not even know the half of it, she said finally, tilting her head slightly, her eyes sharp, unreadable. You think this is about some stupid affair? You have no idea what is really going on. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed in my hand. New message. Unknown number. See you soon. My fingers tightened around the phone as I stared at the words. The sender was not saved, but I did not need to guess who it was. The same person Megan had been texting. The same person she had been meeting behind my back. But this was not just some flirty message. This was not some secret meetup being arranged. This was a warning. A threat. I looked back at Megan. She had not moved. She was still standing there, watching me, almost like she was waiting for my reaction. I lifted the phone so she could see the message. You want to explain this? She exhaled through her nose, shaking her head. You are so predictable. That pissed me off more than the cheating itself. You want to try again? I asked, my voice tight, controlled. Megan's eyes flicked toward the phone, then back to me. He is coming, she said simply. I felt my stomach drop. Who? She let out a small, humorless laugh. The man you have been so desperate to find. I narrowed my eyes. So, it is not the plumber. She scoffed. God, no. That was just convenient. A distraction. I never even slept with him. I stared at her, my brain scrambling to process everything. So all this time, you let me think Frank was right, just so I would not look deeper. Megan tilted her head slightly, like she was almost impressed I had caught on. You were looking for the wrong man, baby, she said, her voice almost playful. And now, she leaned against the counter, her fingers tapping lazily against the marble. Now, he's coming here. A slow, creeping chill ran down my spine. This was not just about cheating. This was something else. I had walked into this thinking my wife was just another liar, another unfaithful woman sneaking around behind my back. But now, as she stood there looking at me like she had already won, I realized Megan had not been afraid of getting caught. She had been waiting for it. The knock at the door came 30 minutes later. By then, I had sat at the kitchen table, arms folded, watching Megan like she was a ticking bomb about to go off. She had poured herself a drink, sipped it slowly, not a single damn ounce of concern in her posture. I had checked the burner phone again. No new messages, nothing that explained what the hell was happening. I had tried calling Frank. No answer. And then, finally, that knock came. Megan stood up immediately. Sit down, I snapped. She gave me a long look, then, for the first time all night, smiled. Or what? Before I could answer, she was already walking toward the door. I stood up fast, heart pounding, every nerve in my body screaming at me that this was wrong, that I had let this go too far, that I had missed something critical. Megan opened the door, and standing there on my damn porch was a man I had never seen before. Tall, dark hair, lean but built, dressed casually, like he could blend into any crowd and not be noticed. His eyes landed on me immediately, and he smiled, like he had been expecting me all along. Ethan twirled the gun in his hand, slow and lazy, like he had all the time in the world. Lisa just watched me, her lips curling slightly, like this was some kind of game. I wasn't playing. I was done playing. "You are smarter than I thought," Lisa repeated, her voice almost admiring. "I figured you'd come home, throw a tantrum, maybe even try to fight Ethan. But instead, you played detective." She leaned forward, her elbows on the table. "And you got so close to figuring it out." My jaw clenched. "Figuring what out?" Ethan let out a small chuckle. "Come on, man," he said. "Do not tell me you still do not see it." I knew one thing for sure. This wasn't just an affair. Lisa and Ethan had planned something big, and that something ended with me out of the picture. I just didn't know how. Yet, I glanced at the burner phone still sitting on the table. The messages flashed through my mind again. "Not yet. I need more time. You keep saying that." I am getting impatient. My stomach twisted. Ethan wasn't some random guy Lisa had met in a coffee shop. He was waiting for something. Lisa was stalling him, and I had walked straight into it. I shifted my weight, keeping my hands loose at my sides. I didn't trust Ethan to not pull the trigger if I made the wrong move. But I also knew one thing. If they had planned to kill me, I would be dead already, which meant they needed something from me. I pointed to the house key Ethan had tossed onto the table. "You want to tell me why he has my key?" I asked Lisa, keeping my voice level. Lisa's smile widened, but she didn't answer. "Ethan did. This house." He gestured around, like he was talking about some cheap rental and not the home I had built my life in. "It is not yours anymore." My blood ran cold. What the hell does that mean? Lisa finally spoke, tapping her nails on the table. "It means, sweetheart, that while you have been running around trying to catch me cheating," she grinned, "I've been making sure you have nothing left to come home to." My breath stalled in my throat. "Nothing left," I repeated slowly. Lisa sat back, stretching her arms above her head. "You think I've just been sneaking around, sleeping with some guy behind your back?" She laughed. "Oh, babe, that was just a distraction." My heart pounded. Lisa had always been smart, calculating. But this was something else. I glanced at Ethan. He was too calm, too comfortable, like a man who had already won. I shook my head. "I don't believe you." Lisa shrugged. "Okay, don't." She reached into the drawer next to her and pulled out a stack of papers. And when she slid them across the table, I finally understood. My divorce papers, already signed, by me. I snatched them up, flipping through page after page of legal paperwork I had never seen before. But there it was, my signature, clear as day, except I had never signed them. Lisa sipped her drink, watching the realization hit me. "Like I said," she murmured, "you don't live here anymore." I slammed the papers on the table. "This is fake." Lisa raised an eyebrow. "Is it?" I knew my own damn signature. And yet, this looked real. Too real. Ethan smirked. "It is amazing what a good lawyer and some forged documents can do." I felt a pit open in my stomach. My bank accounts. My assets. My house. Had she? Lisa grinned, reading my mind. "Oh, sweetheart, you really should have been paying more attention to our finances." I saw red. "You think you can just take everything?" I hissed. Lisa's smirk never faded. "I already have." I felt like the floor had just been ripped out from under me. This had never been about an affair. This was about power. Lisa had played me from the start, and now I was standing in my own house that was no longer mine. I forced my voice to stay steady. "You did all this just to get rid of me?" Lisa's eyes glowed with amusement. "Oh, baby, I've been planning this for years. I should have seen the signs. The way she never let me handle the finances, The way she subtly pushed me to sign documents without reading them, The affair, making sure I was too distracted to notice the real game she was playing. And now I was standing in checkmate. But I wasn't going down without a fight. Ethan was still holding the gun, but he hadn't moved. Lisa? Lisa was too confident, too sure that she had already won. That was her mistake. Because if there was one thing Lisa had forgotten about me, it was that I never played fair. My eyes flicked to the burner phone, still sitting on the table. And without hesitation, I grabbed it and smashed it against the floor. Lisa's smile dropped. Ethan jerked forward. What the hell? I moved fast. Before Ethan could react, I grabbed the edge of the table and flipped it. The glass shattered. Lisa screamed. Ethan stumbled backward, and in that split second, I ran. I heard Ethan cursing, Lisa yelling, but I was already out the door. I sprinted to my truck, yanked the door open, and slammed it shut behind me. I reached for my phone, hands shaking. 911. I barely had time to register the operator's voice before a loud bang shattered the night. A bullet hit my windshield. Ethan, gun still in hand. Lisa stood next to him, smirking. I didn't wait. I floored it. The tires screeched as I tore out of the driveway. I didn't look back. By the time the cops arrived, Lisa and Ethan were gone. No sign of them. No trace. But the forged papers? The burner phone? The messages? I had enough. Lisa had spent years setting me up, but she had underestimated me. Because now she was the one running. And no matter how far she went, I was going to find her. And when I did, Lisa was going to regret the day she ever thought she could outplay me. The gunshot shattered the air, deafening and final. Something whizzed past my ear, so close I felt the heat of it. I didn't stop, didn't look back, didn't even breathe. I bolted toward the hallway, my only thought, get out. Behind me, I heard Lisa scream, "Do not shoot him, you idiot." Ethan snarled something back, but I wasn't sticking around to hear it. My legs burned as I sprinted through the house. My fingers clenched so tight around my phone, I thought it might snap. I just needed to make it to the door. Just needed to get outside. But then, bam! The hallway mirror exploded as another shot rang out. Glass rained down, cutting my arm, but I didn't slow down. Not until I hit the front door at full speed, slamming my shoulder into it so hard it nearly knocked the wind out of me. The door flew open, and then I was outside. I sprinted to my truck, heart hammering, every nerve in my body screaming at me to move faster. I fumbled for my keys, blood dripping down my arm from the glass, my breathing ragged. Come on, come on. I shoved the key into the ignition, and that's when I heard them. Lisa and Ethan barreling out of the house behind me. Ethan had the gun raised. Lisa was shouting something frantic, something angry. I didn't care. I gunned it. The tires screeched against the pavement as my truck shot forward. Another bang. The side mirror shattered. I swerved, almost losing control, but I didn't stop. Not until I was flying down the street, streetlights blurring past, leaving my house, asterisk, asterisk, my old life, asterisk, asterisk in the rearview mirror. Leaving them. I didn't slow down for 5 miles. Not until I was sure they weren't following me. Then, finally, I grabbed my phone. The recording was still going. Everything. Lisa's confession. Ethan's threats. The shots. All of it. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely type, but I managed to dial the only number that mattered. 911. A click, then a voice. 911. What is your emergency? I licked my lips, swallowing the sharp burn in my throat. I need help. The words came out shaky, but firm. My wife and her boyfriend just tried to kill me. A pause. Then, "Sir, where are you right now?" I checked the road sign ahead. My voice steadied. "I'm on Highway 19, heading north. But you need to send officers to my house. Now." By the time the cops arrived, Lisa and Ethan were gone. Vanished. But I had everything I needed. The recording. The fake divorce papers. The burner phone. I handed it all over. Every single piece. Lisa had spent years setting me up. She had thought she had won. But now she was the one running. And no matter how far she went, I was going to find her. And when I did, Lisa was going to regret the day she ever thought she could outplay me.